Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast, and this is a special, I guess you could call it a return episode where I'm back. I haven't released an episode since like October last year, and there was the name change back to the Carlo Cirillo show, and then many things in my life happened. I ended up moving, and let's just say it's been a journey to get from where I was to where I am now. And 2023 as a whole was just a year. One of the big things out of the time that I've had off since the new year, not really time off, time to reflect, has led me back to the core, led me back to the things that I care about most, and led me back to the things that I want to do and share most in the world. And one of those things is this podcast. So as much as this feels natural being in front of the camera and behind the mic, I'm a bit nervous. So whether you're listening on whatever platform, or if you are streaming wherever you're watching from, YouTube or any of the other platforms, welcome. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, I'm super grateful that you chose to be here and listening to this episode. But if you, and also if you have listened to the podcast before, you're a regular and you're back because you've seen a little notification come up, welcome back. I am excited to share more conversations with incredible people, and with that, the purpose of helping us become a bit more aware of ourselves, being a bit more aware of the world around us, and how we can be a better version of ourselves. Because when we be the better version of ourselves, or the best version of ourselves that we can be, that's when we create a life that we love, and we ride the waves that life gives us better. Okay? And my life over the past 12 months has been a definite test of that. And, when I look back on 2023 and people, you start asking the questions, how was the year, reflecting on the year, what were the wins, what were the lessons? I definitely had all of them, all of the above. There were wins, there were lessons. But, to be completely honest, 2023 is a year that I want to forget in a lot of ways. There were a lot of things that were very painful, a lot of things that I had to go through, whether it was in, relationships, in my self-relationship, in business, in finances, in just many, many different areas of life. And, whether it's my Saturn return, or whether it's, the year of what it was, or whatever the meanings we want to give it, it was a tough year. And I think that it's, for a long time I was like, no, I've got to look back and look at all the positives. And 100%, yes, I can find the gratitude for these things. And this is, I think, the most powerful thing about gratitude is it's easy to be grateful for the good things that happen in your day, in your life, the nice things that people say to you, or the people that you love. But what about the gratitude for the things that don't go your way? What about gratitude for the things that are painful, that are challenging, that hurt you? That's where it becomes really important. And that's where my own practice of gratitude has been so important to me. And if you've been through any of my programs, you'll know that process and hopefully be practicing it. But I think it was a year that it was like, Carlo, it's time to practice what you preach. And look, this podcast could go for 5 hours if I really want to go in detail of all the different things. And one thing that I realized this year was that I don't have to share everything in certain spaces. And I guess that also led me to take a step back from social media last year. While I was going through the waves, while I was going through the emotions, while I was going through the challenges, I felt a disconnect from social media. I felt like I'm not ready to share anything. And also, social media was becoming almost a distraction for me. And now, that's not social media's problem. That's me, right? I was getting distracted. I was comparing. I was looking at everyone else's story and journey and comparing to their chapters. And we know that quote of don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. But when you're on social media and you're seeing the fabricated version of everyone's stories or most people's stories, it's hard to not compare and judge yourself and where you're at. And as I was going through everything, it was like, okay, I love these people on social media. I'm going to support them, but it's not actually good for me and where I'm at right now to be looking at this stuff. So I made a conscious decision to kind of take a step back from posting, the year before like 4 times a day to only posting like 4 or 5 times in the whole year. Was such a big change. And don't get me wrong, I was still on social media. I was still replying, 7 to 10 business days. But if people needed me, they knew where to contact me. They've got my mobile number. And for the most part, I had moved to Mildura and I'd set up a studio. So I was focusing on that social media, the Sala Wellness Hub, and focusing on being super present in that and focusing on running that and expanding that. And when I look back on that journey of last year, that was one of the most special things in my life last year, was the community that we built with that hub. Although it put me in a big hole financially, and would probably do it very different next time, it taught me so much, and it brought me so much community into my life that I didn't know that I needed. And I think that showed me how important it is to be around people that are just there to hold space for you. And through hosting these men's circles, these ceremonies, these weekly wellness events, I was able to connect with incredible people, that some that I'd never met before in Mildura. And with that formed such deep and important connections and relationships in my life. And I can even pinpoint back to one of the men's circles where these men held such an important space for me to share, to break down. I was bawling my eyes out, crying. It was emotions that I didn't know how to feel, or, and the thing that happened only happened like the day before or the day of. And I had to drive from Melbourne all the way back like 6-7 hours. And I was like, this is a free men's workshop. Like, why am I running this? Like, I want to just feel my emotions. And then I was like, no, like, yes, that's valid and I can do that. But it was important that I was like, if I'm going to set an example for these other men that are showing up for me and for themselves, I need to share this. And, it was tough to share, but I was held physically, energetically, and those men, and they know who they are, if they're listening right now, were a big reason why I was able to get through last year as well as I did. They showed up for me, and, in return, of course, I held space for them as well, but they gave me that, what I needed, that brotherly camaraderie that I'd been missing in my life. And it's one of those things, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And when you feel you're lacking something in your life and you open space for the thing to come in, it comes in, and it might come in a different shape or form, complete strangers in this case. But although it was messy, it was beautiful. And, whether it was the men's circles or whether it was when we had, everyone together in those circles, or Cold and Conscious, or the sauna sessions that we did, or the ice bath, I realized how important community is. And, for me, someone that's, held space for so many people over the years, whether it's through my events or through my programs, it was like, sometimes I've been so caught up in supporting others that I forgot to receive it myself. And that kind of led into other areas of my life. Sometimes I was giving in terms of helping everyone else in their business and what they're doing and showing up for them, that I put myself on the back burner. And, can you relate at any point of doing that? And some of you might be like, yeah, I do that all the time. But for me, it's an innate feeling or knowing of, I want to give. Like, I love serving and giving and teaching and sharing, But when it comes to a point where, it comes at an expense to myself, that's when, I have to start thinking about, is this in balance, or can I create more balance, or am I giving enough to myself? And sometimes you have to go too far in order to know, okay, that's too far. That's my limit. I got to kind of pull myself back here. So I think in all these moments, it was easy for me to judge myself. It was easy for me to go, you're the mentor, you're the speaker, you're the this, that, and you shouldn't be doing this. And what would your higher self do? Yeah. And that can also be very toxic, because in those moments, it's like you're doing what you need to do. And sometimes that season in life is just going through what you're going through. And I know for me, there were times where, I was helping my sister's restaurant, and I was running the bar, and, I'm not someone that drinks very often, and, it was fun, the social aspect, but, it was long hours. It was, when you're working Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, but also waking up super early the next morning to run wellness events and only, surviving on 4 or 5 hours sleep, it becomes taxing on your body, your mind, but also your soul as well. And I think that experience was a huge one for me to learn. And now, yes, someone could have told me, 12, 13, 14 months ago, oh, this is going to happen, or this could happen, watch out for this. But at the end of the day, I think I needed to just go through it. I think experiences in life, and I watch this when I mentor people, is I'm never going to tell someone what to do. I can advise and say from my experience this, but also sometimes we need to touch the stove in order to feel that it's hot and maybe burn ourselves a little bit. Then we learn, right? I love experiential things, and maybe that's me liking pain in a few ways, but I'm not saying go, step in front of oncoming traffic. Like, don't do that. Don't throw yourself into, I'm going to put all my money in lottery and lose it all. That's not what I'm saying. Those things will happen in your life, regardless of if you like it or not. But whatever you're going through, it's seeing that this is going to teach me something. And the whole time throughout all of the challenges that happened last year, the whole time I was sitting there, and there was that, a lot of lacking belief, a lot of just, I'm exhausted. I don't know what to do. And I have programs and I mentor people, and I was in that. So it was spiraling even more because of, I'm like, I know the tools. Why am I not doing the things? I'm not meditating. I'm not practicing gratitude. I'm not doing the things I know I need to be doing. And as much as I hated it, the whole time, there was always that voice in the back of my head that was like, you're going to learn from this. You're going to learn from this and not do this again. And you're going to be able to share this with other people. And I remember in one of my readings a few years ago, all the readings that I normally get done, whether it's astrology or psychic readings, they're like, your role here is to go through the shit, learn, and then teach others. And I'm like, well, that's a thanks. Wherever I signed this contract, like, can I see the terms and conditions? Because damn, there's some painful stuff here. But, I think one of the important things from all the things we go through, no matter what age we're at, and, it's going to come up no matter what, like in our work life, in our businesses, in our relationships, these things are there for us to learn. And, yes, we put a lot of terms like, they trigger us, or, I like to use challenge. They challenge you, and they're all experiences for you to learn and grow, right? It's opportunities for you to learn what you want and what you don't want. Opportunities to learn what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And for me, I learned a lot of lessons. And it took all those, I guess, tumbling moments to finally get to a point where it was like, okay, I feel like I'm broken in many pieces here. I need to reset and change what I'm doing because it's not working. And I've tried. I gave it a good amount of time. It was like 8-9 months. And I became aware. I was like, what am I doing and what am I not doing? And I was like, okay, the things that I am doing that are helping, was staying physically fit. I was going to Air Locker. I was running a lot of meditation, so I was meditating myself. I was in the sauna a lot. I was looking after my health a lot more because I did start a little bit of drinking, and that wasn't, not great for your health. Nothing against drinking. And just certain habits like that were, I started to switch. I started to get into a healthier pattern, and that helped. Second part is, what are the things that also I know I need that I'm not doing, that are things that like fuel my soul? And when I noticed what I wasn't doing, well, then I was able to just implement those things. I was able to just add those things into my life and start day by day improving from there. Now, I had a lot of reflection time over New Year, and it gave me time to realize what I'd gone through in doing the work and going through the year that I'd been through, going through those challenges, to then come out and be like, okay, this is the next chapter in my life. And you can do this at any point. It doesn't have to be 2020, like a new year. The cycle can start whenever you want to break the cycle, right? I was aware of it, and I was like, I'm sick of feeling like this. These results. And don't get me wrong, I'm the most self-critical person on myself, right? So you might hear what I say, and I have challenges and stuff. And you might be like, that's nothing, man. Like everyone's got their own situation, right? But for me, I was like, I want a lifestyle where I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm doing that kind of freely. Anyone at any point in your life should ask yourself this question. No matter where you are right now in your life, ask yourself these 3 questions. Number 1 is, do you love yourself? And if it's yes, awesome. Like, you keep working on that. And I don't mean this in an egotistical way. If you do love yourself, amazing. If you're feeling like, no, like I feel like I'm lacking self-love for myself, and it's because I've been holding on to so much from the past, it's because I don't like the way I look, or blah, blah, blah. It could be so many different things. Then we know that we're lacking a lot of love in our life. And for me, it was like, do I love myself? And it was like, I have love for myself, but I am neglecting myself. Therefore, I am not showing up from a place of love. And because I was going through those challenging times, I was judging myself so harshly. And again, it comes from comparison and expectation. And don't get me wrong, I had goals. And I think it's important to know that you can fail, right? That relationship with failure. And I had that, but it was like I imagined it to be so different. And that's why it was, I guess, disappointing. And then I put those results back onto myself as a self-reflection. So then that affected my self-worth. So my love was lacking, and my heart definitely wasn't full. And I wasn't even receiving love. Like, I had some of the most beautiful hugs, comments, compliments, people reaching out in so many different ways, even from my leadership group. And I was just like, yeah, thank you. But I was not receiving it. And now I look back on those things, and I've seen those like pop up in the messages, in the previous messages. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even acknowledge it. Well, I said thank you, but like, I didn't feel it. And when we don't have that good relationship with ourselves, we reflect, reject, hold on to that shame, that guilt for so long. Second question that I ask everyone is, do you trust yourself? Second question that I ask everyone is, do you trust yourself? Now, this is kind of a really big one here, right? So, did I trust myself in getting through those challenging moments? Yeah, I did. I knew I was going to get through those things. Touch wood, I have gotten to dark places, but I have been able to find the strength to pull myself out or to get help, right? And there were definitely moments where I lost self-belief, that belief in myself, because of what happened, the results that were happening, and the quote unquote failures in my life. And I think that is quite natural for us when we go through any sort of failure, whether it's in business or relationships or work, that we then reflect that onto ourselves. But I think it's also important it kind of goes into that relationship. It goes into the first question of, do you love yourself? I don't think you can fully love yourself unless you also trust yourself, right? Because trusting is accepting is loving. That process for me was getting a bit broken. And if it is for you, like it's great to be aware of these things, so then we can start putting things into place. We can start working on it, okay? The third question is, are you happy in your life right now? Happy with who you are, happy with your results, and happy with your life. And for me, I reflected on this over the New Year period, and I was like, I don't think I've been happy for a good 2 years. And again, I'm comparing, right? I'm going back to 2 years ago when I guess I felt the best that I've felt in my life. I was just being me, authentically. I was, if anyone remembers me, remember the silver pants and the dancing videos, right? And I'm not saying I have to do dancing videos now, but like it was just that expression, that authenticity, that I was genuinely doing what I love and loving what I was doing. And I think that when those things I put a lot of pressure on those things, and I started, not having to do things, but my focus went from heart to head. Okay, the heart was, my core values of like connection and giving and service and doing things because I love doing them. That's why I started all these things. That's why I started the podcast. I did the podcast because I loved connecting with people and sharing conversations. That turned into pressure when, I listened to someone else and they were like, oh, your views need to be this. And if it's not this, or you can make money from this and you can do this and that. Like when I was coming from my heart space, everything came naturally. I started the podcast. There was no pressure on, how many needed to come out or who I was interviewing or how many views or reels, whatever it may be. Then that naturally led into me, meeting certain people, going to certain retreats, going to certain events, hosting my own events, hosting meditations, starting an app, starting a program and having, over 300 people come through that. Things just, they were in balance. They were working. And I brought in this external expectation and pressure of someone else saying, you need to make $20,000 a month. You need to have this many people coming through. If you're not doing this, you're a failure. 6 figures is the goal, 7 figures, or you're nothing. All these things came in and I let them in. There was no one else, right? I was consuming that. And therefore I was comparing it and I was going, I'm not happy with this because it's not this. And this is where I want you to be really, really careful when you're setting your vision for the year and your goals. Make sure that you're setting goals and visions that are yours, that are true to you, your purpose, your vision, your values. Because if it's not, that is someone else's that's been put in your head, and you're going to try and live a life or succeed in a life, to their version of success that you think you need to get. And I think this is where most people get trapped into, is you start living a life that's not yours. And then you wonder why this doesn't feel good, or I don't feel fulfilled. My biggest thing now from, assessing, the last year and where I was at and asking, am I happy? And going and actually genuinely sitting there and being like, there were happy moments for sure, but am I genuinely happy? And I was like, no, I'm not. And it shows in my voice, it shows in my face, it shows in my work, shows probably in my energy. And I was like, I want to change that. And yes, happiness is an emotion. So I think the word is joy and fulfillment. And I reevaluated and wrote, what's my version of success? Stuff what everyone else is doing, right? I don't care what the newest fad is. I don't care what the newest, business model is. I don't care what, what's the trend right now. what do I want to give? And how do I want to serve? And how do I want to live my life? That's the most important thing that we need to focus on. Because all those other things will come and go. If I'm aligned with those things internally, then I'll feel good. And also, before that, is if I'm in a state of gratitude, that's when I know I'm in such a solid place. And one of my practices is, writing, my letter to God, letter to universe, and feeling and practicing deep, deep gratitude. That's my base. It's not happiness that brings gratitude. It's gratitude that brings more happiness and joy into your life, right? It starts with the basic things. You can do all the ice baths and breath work and plant medicine you want. But if you can't have a strong base, those things are just going to give you a spike and then bring you back down. They even say that at the start of these things. It's going to activate your brain and all these feelings, but it's also going to bring you back down. Is that back down a nice place to be? And is that a good baseline for you to then move forward? So for me, I started to think, what are the things that matter most to me? What are my values? And one of those is connection. I love connecting with people, whether that's online, whether that's through the podcast, whether that's conversations. Connection is something that's really, really important to me, and something so simple like, how am I connecting with myself on a daily basis? How can I connect with someone else on a daily basis? The next one is impact or teaching. So once I learn these lessons of, all these things that I've gone through, I do like to share them. So in some way, what those psychics and readings have said is actually pretty true. This is why I, signed a book deal. This is why I created a program. This is why I have an online community, the Modern Mentor, and why I rebranded as the Modern Mentor. Someone that can share, all the nice flashy things, but also the most grounded things that are actually going to get you through each day. Because I feel a lot of people are missing that. We're getting caught up in the flashy things, in the short-term success, when it's like, life is long-term, not short-term. And there's some fundamentals that need to be there. So that might be teaching or sharing meditations, right? I'm bringing those back. They're coming back on the full moon and the new moon, some in person. It's something that I love sharing with people. And I think, if you've joined in one of my meditations, you'll know, I'm literally emotional when I share those meditations. I know how good it feels to share those, and hopefully that's then felt by other people. Now it's funny because I either I fell asleep during your meditation, or I'm crying and I'm well, don't leave that as a review, but I can see how it's been impacting you. It's either relaxed you or brought up a lot of emotions, which is, both good. But even with the online community, I wanted a space that's not on social media. It's so easy to get distracted on social media, right? This is why, I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I love it, and I think that it's a great tool and a great way to connect with people and share beautiful moments and education and learn and see what your friends are doing. But also it's a great way to get distracted. And with all the different platforms, they're all there to distract you. And this is why I took my communities off all these things, even WhatsApp, right? It's in a circle group. And in there, I'm going to share my Q&As. That's where I'm going to run my programs, my courses, my workshops, things that everyone can plug into. That's completely off all those things, because I think you can definitely see the impact it has on someone when they consume so much of it. So that's why I've shifted and moved everything off there. And if you want to be part of that, there'll be links everywhere you're watching and listening. But then also on top of that, it's I also want to share in beautiful moments with myself, my family, with the people that matter most to me. And there was some advice that I got off Mark, one of the speakers at Mel U's event a week ago. and his name's Mark Carter. And he said, I asked him, because I was there filming a bit of stuff and just kind of behind the scenes. And I asked him, what would you say is one of the most important things or lessons that you've learned or implemented that's helped you be as impactful and add as much value to other people's lives and even yourself? And he said, wherever I am and whatever I'm doing, I am completely present. So if I'm sitting with someone, my phone is in my pocket or out of the way. If I am speaking on stage, I don't check my phone. I don't worry about anything else outside the room apart from every single person in that room. If I am ordering a coffee, I'm ordering the coffee. If I'm going on the walk, I am on the walk with the purpose of being on the walk. That level of presence, even in the week that I've been implementing it, has been so awesome. Even if I'm having rest time where I'm just watching shit on YouTube, right? I'm present. I'm doing it. If I'm stretching, if I'm meditating, putting in a world where we're so distracted, putting focused time and energy on something and pure presence is so valuable. Now imagine how much your relationships would improve if you were more present. Imagine how much your own self-care and self-regulation would be if you were more present with what's going on with yourself. If you actually sat with yourself. These are just little things that I've started to implement and seen such a big difference in. And, I think for me, bringing back the conscious blueprint was a big thing that I wanted to do. And I got so much fulfillment and joy out of and gave so much to others. And, I look back on my life and I was like, over 300 people came through that. And I've seen the people that kept implementing the tools and the masterclasses and kept doing the work, they've really changed their lives. And that's not from me, right? Yeah, I was the guide, but it's from them actually implementing it. And I think that it's such a fundamental system and it's a beautiful program. And I 2 years ago, I put it into a 2-day event and that was amazing. But I think the 8-week online mentoring is something that, and the more one-on-one and group aspect is something that I enjoy more. And again, from other people's perspectives, they were like, it needs to be bigger and better and 100 people. And I look back and I go, that's great. That can happen, but also what feels good to me. And so I've brought it back. 7th of Feb is when we start. If you're interested, the basis of it is to know thyself, love thyself, and be thyself. And that's through the journey of knowing and practicing gratitude, a deep level of gratitude, forgiveness, letting go of the things we've been holding on to, discovering or reconnecting to our purpose, why you're here, what you want to share with the world, creating a vision that is so clear and powerful and inspiring to you that'll make you want to get up in the morning, but also something to aim for in your life, especially when we assess where we are and where we want to go. Then identifying your values that you need to focus on, right? And if we don't know them, we're falling into values. And then creating the identity, who is the you right now, or that you need to step into in order to live those values and that vision. And that's a powerful process in and out. Then we have the energetic upgrades and self-regulation of knowing who you are and why you're here and how to manage those challenging moments, because they're going to happen, right? I think that's super important, and where to turn to and tools and tips on how to navigate those. And then lastly is taking aligned action. And that's how can you come out of those 8 weeks and start implementing? And how can you assess? How can you, where's the point of where we come in and go, okay, what's been happening? What's been good? What hasn't been good? And when we have that accountability with ourselves, but also with a group of people, that's when we see growth. When we don't have it, I think there's benefit in having time alone and going through stuff. But what I've noticed for myself and when we come through the program is that's where we see the foundations built in order for you to go, okay, this is the life that I want to live. So I'm excited for that to be back. And if you want more information, there'll be a link in the bio. I think it's just carlocirillo.com/program. I have a few events that are coming up. I'm kind of easing up on those. A lot are online, so the meditations. And then I have, depending on when you're listening to this, so next week, which is the start of Feb, I have an event with Dr. Sarah Jane, who was just on the podcast. The episode before this, so she'll be doing spinal energetics, I'll be doing meditation, and then Big Joe who's over from America, he'll be running a breathwork session within that. So that's going to be a really, really special event. I love collaborating on events, and it's going to be powerful. Go check it out. Again, go to my social media if you haven't already got me. Carlo_Cirillo. I have TikTok. I don't use it. I have Snapchat. Don't use it. There's Instagram's my main place. Facebook, don't bother. I don't check those messages. But come into the community, and I think that's where you're going to get the most value if you're enjoying this. Or if you just want to listen to the podcast episodes, that's also beautiful too. Click subscribe and leave a review. You know what? Those mean a lot to where this podcast goes and who I can pull on the podcast, but also it gives me a lot of good feedback, and it's nice to see those things written. But I also think one of the biggest things, like go to social media, there is the Carlo Cirillo Show podcast page where all the snippets will be on there, and that's like a good place to follow. Also my account, all the good stuff will be there. I have a free broadcast channel on my Instagram called Gratitude and Good Vibes. Every day we drop our gratitudes. I share some stuff in there. That's also really good. But if you've related to this episode, or you can resonate with something that I've said, or maybe you can relate to, some of my answers or what I went through last year, there is so much power in genuinely reaching out to someone, right? And sharing that. So, Carlo_Cirillo, DM me. Send me a message. If you don't have social media, send me an email. connectwithcarlo@gmail.com. There is something about a heart-to-heart connection of like, hey, I could relate to that I appreciate, and I know maybe you appreciate too. Yes, follow the podcast. Yes, subscribe. All those things are beautiful too, because that helps keep this podcast alive. But I like I said, I believe my purpose is to help people connect back into who they really are, so that they can live a life that they love. And with the Carlo Cirillo Show, my intention is to interview people to help us learn more about ourselves. The more we learn about ourselves, the more we get to know ourselves. The more we know, the more we love. Understand ourselves, but then also love ourselves even more. And that is a great basis to start living your life and start evolving from where you are now. So wherever you are, wherever you're listening, whatever country you're from, I am so, so grateful that you've chosen to listen in, and keep it as one of your favorites, because there's going to be some epic conversations coming up, and I can't wait to share that journey with all of you. All the links to everything I mentioned will be in the show notes wherever you're listening, so go check it out. And remember that you are, wherever you are, whatever results you have and whatever you're feeling, you are worthy, you are loved, and you are exactly where you're supposed to be. And if you ever need support in any way, reach out, whether that's to me, someone else, someone close to you. The power of reaching out and sharing how you feel, but also reaching out to people that can hold space for you, is one of the biggest lessons I took from last year, and what helped me get through the year. So if I can be that for you, or maybe the community can be that for you, or maybe the people around you, that is powerful. If you like this, please share and like and all the things, and I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.